Hello, in today's video, I wanted to explore more and deconstruct more about the nature of eating disorder. So, I was reading a paper which had linked dissociation and eating disorder state. So, this paper, while working extensively with patients of eating disorder, had found out that people who have who tend to go on binges on cycle of binging and purging, they whenever they are in the midst of doing binge or purge, they found that there is a fog like state which comes over. The cognitive focus totally narrows down. It's as if the reality has very much constricted to it, to that very small moment, and there is a sense of automation which takes over, something which is happening very automatically to the patient, and the patient doesn't really know or is in control of what is happening in that moment. And it's almost like doing something when we are really not aware of it. We are just put on autopilot mode, and there is no sense of uh, meaningfulness attached to that action. So this is what they had found, and this is a similar pattern which is observed when someone is dissociated or when someone is into a dissociated state. Now, this author says that it is important that these dissociated states are invited into the room. What are these states dissociating? What are these states carrying? Because the patient has organized their self while keeping these difficult parts outside of their organization as a self. Now, this part which has been kept away from the person, from the organization of the person, can be holding a lot of unacknowledged anger, a lot of anger which the patient doesn't want to acknowledge, doesn't know how to handle, doesn't know how to work with it, and this anger needs to be kept at bay. So it's important that these dissociated states, which have been dissociated into the body, which have been dissociated into them from the mind, are invited into the room and deconstructed and reconstructed over and over again. Second, they found that patients who have eating disorder uh, find it very difficult to communicate through words, and they feel that words will fail the depth of experience, the depth of feelings they are going through, and there is almost very little trust whether the other person who is sitting into the room will be able to understand them, will be able to receive them with whatever words they are trying to communicate their experience, because these patients, they are not really communicating through words. They have substituted body in the place of those words. So now um, so now, this author cites an example of a patient while working with a obese patient who was constantly starving herself, and this therapist who had completely eaten her full meal of lunch felt really starved. And now, these visceral responses, something which language is failing to do, something is being communicated through body. This patient has kept her hungry part into the therapist, and now therapist is supposed to make sense of it. This disavowed hunger, these disavowed needs. So now this therapist says that it is important that we are very aware as a therapist to these momentary shifts, moment to moment shifts of needs, visceral experiences in the therapy room. third this Third, this author also says that there is a very much difficulty in self-soothing in the patients who have eating disorders. There is a lot of difficulty in soothing oneself. So while working with a client who had difficulty in imagination, he was lamenting that he cannot go to yoga classes. And when therapist asked why, he said that because he will be seeing all these pretty women which he can never have. And the therapist said maybe if he can never have them in real life, at least for a day, if he goes to yoga classes, he will be able to imagine how it would be like being with them, at least in his imagination. And patient gets frustrated and completely rebuffs this. recommendation um, uh, if he cannot have them in his real life, then what is the point of imagination? It's like anything which can self-soothe is completely rebuffed. For there is a lot of difficult difficulty in accepting oneself as a desiring being, as a person who can desire a lot of things, and these desires are completely kept at bay, and the body becomes an arena of war. So it's very important that beyond symptom reduction, it is also important that these patients are helped in dealing and making giving form to their unformulated experiences, in affect regulation, in helping them learn how to soothe themselves, not by not relying on binging or purging, because binging purging tends to become a vicious cycle, because the moment I purge, there is a serotonin release in my brain and I feel good. So now it's become a vicious cycle. The moment I feel a very difficult feeling which has come up in my body, but I don't want to feel it, I want to keep it at bay. So what do? I binge, or I purge, or I starve myself. But it is important. But the moment these feelings also, it's very difficult now to tone down emotions naturally, to reduce them, because emotions are supposed to occur. That is their work. They keep making in nature. That is their nature. So it is important that these patients are taught how to regulate their emotions, how to regulate their feelings. If they do not regulate it, they increase. Now to keep them at bay, binges are relied on, and then it becomes a vicious cycle. It's important that this cycle is broken. Their desires are addressed in a safe space. If they are not communicating through words, at least the therapist is aware of what is going on inside her own body in that room, and that can become a way to explore, to make and to communicate to the patient, that the therapist can understand them from inside out. If words are failing, the therapist is trying their best to reach them through any method possible. Thank you. And I work with eating disorder clients. In case you are looking for help, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be attaching my contact details in the comment sections. I also take up international clients, and I practice offline in Delhi as well as Gurgaon. So if you or you feel anybody who needs help, feel free to share my number. Thank you.